Hello, in this video we will see an intermediate SQL query. So in this database we have two tables, characters and friends. In characters table we have the ID, name and date of birth. In the friends table we have mapped the ID to the friend ID. So we know which character is friends with whom. Now the query we need to write is to display the character ID, character name, their friend name and the friend ID. So first let's see all the columns after joining the characters and friends table. From characters C, join friends F using ID. Okay, great. So for ID number 1, Steve Rogers, the friend ID is 3. So friend ID 3 is Bucky Barnes. For Tony Stark, it is friend ID 5, which is James Rhodes. Okay, so this join is working correctly. Now let me just select the columns that I need to see. C.ID, C.name and friend ID. Okay, so I can see the friend ID for just the first friend. I can't see the friend ID for the second name. Now Bucky Barnes is Steve Rogers is friends with Bucky Barnes. That means that Bucky is friends with Steve as well. But here it is showing null. We need to show Steve Rogers ID over here. Same for Rhodes, T'Challa and Okoye and Thor, sorry. So what we do is we'll join friends again and using F2 we'll make this F1, we'll turn this to F1 on C.ID friend ID equal to F.ID. Sorry, F.C.ID equal to F.friend ID. F2 friend ID, and let's display the friend ID here. Okay, so for Bucky I'm getting the friend ID as Steve Rogers, which is correct, and for James Rhodes I'm getting the friend ID as 2, which is Tony Stark, so I can see everything here. For Loki I'm seeing that both the columns are null. That's because Loki is not there in the friends table. So in this database it shows that Loki doesn't have any friends. So now what I need to do is I need to combine these two columns into one column. I don't need two different columns showing the same kind of data. So I need a single column which will show me the friend ID. For this we'll use the coalesce function on friend ID and ID. So coalesce we can write as COALESC, and I'll put the friend ID and ID inside that. So what this coalesce function does is it will first return us the first column in the brackets. If the value for any record of the first column is null, then it will give me the second one. This works perfectly in this scenario. Okay, great. So now I can see the friend ID next to the name properly. Now our next step is to display the name of the character next to the friend ID column. So let's first rename this column as friend ID. So now according to the question we have the friend ID, but now we need the friend name. Okay, so next what I need to do is I need to display the friend name in a different column which corresponds to the respective friend ID as seen in the question. So for this I will need to join the another characters table to this query, since if I directly query C.name, it will give me the name which corresponds to this ID and not to the friend ID. So for that reason I need to join the characters table again. So I have character, this will become C2. I'll change this to C1 just for clarity. This to C1 on f1 dot friend id equal to c2 dot id, and let me display c2 name here. Okay, so it is giving me the name of this id. This is what we wanted. It's working perfectly. I'll just rename this as friend name. Now here we have a lot of null columns, but we have the friend id, so it won't be difficult to fetch the friend name for that. But we will again have to join the character table to it. Join characters let's join this on f2 dot id equal to c3 dot id, and let me display c3 dot name here. Okay, doesn't this look perfect? Now we know what to do next. We just need to use the coalesce function, which I will use on c2 dot name. This I will remove in the bracket and paste the alias. Okay, so we now have the result. All the characters next to their friend id and friend name. Only poor Loki doesn't have any friends in this database. So thank you for watching my video. Bye bye.